Good morning to everyone, and welcome to this first session of the plenary sessions of the General Assembly. My name is Knut Harg, and I'm chairing this session, which will be looking both backwards and forwards. And there are two key words that will describe this session. One is achievement, and the other is ambitions. And I have a very distinguished panel to provide both of these perspectives. First in 10-minute introductions, and then we will have a dialogue including both the panel and, if you please, the audience. Please, Pierre-Etienne. And I'd like to introduce my fellow panel members, starting from your right, Viktor Araldov, who is the head of the unit of energy conversion and distribution systems with DG Research and Innovation in the European Commission. To his right is Bert Kolvenaar, whom you've already met, who is the executive director of the joint undertaking. On my immediate left, Pierre-Etienne Franck, who you've already met, who is both the chairman of the Joint Undertakings Industry Grouping and also the chairman of the governing board. And on my right, Vladimir, the deputy director general of the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. To start us out in giving the perspectives of achievements and ambitions, I would like to ask Bert Kolvenaar to start us off. And the title of his presentation is FCH-JU Achievements and Perspectives. Bert, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here to address you all, as our stakeholders of the fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking, on what we have done so far and what is a little the perspective on what we as a joint undertaking believe is necessary to do. Allow me to sketch you, as you're all aware of, the targets from a European perspective. We all know the 20-20-20 strategy in the short term. We know the ambitions on the long term are going a little further. 20-20-20 stands for 20% increase of use of renewables, 20% increase of efficiency, and 20% reduction of emissions. The challenges at the European perspective related to that are huge. First of all, sustainable development. We all know that natural resources you can only take once out of the ground. Once you've taken them, they're gone. It's okay maybe for us, but what is going to happen for the future? Children and grandchildren. Secondly, those natural resources are usually in regions which are not always as politically stable as here. And thirdly, it has to do with industrial competitiveness. It's up to us, up to Europe, to secure that the industry, our industry in Europe, can go forward at the world scale. It's been addressed already before in the previous presentations of Mr. Bigot and Mr. Poitier. I want to give you one figure. 2011, last year, Europe used 250 billion euro to import oil. 250 billion, a quarter of a trillion. It's a lot of money. And what do we do with it? We burn it. We burn it for transport applications, for heating, for industrial applications. Now, what do we do this year? We do the same. I believe that, can I have next first slide? I believe that the technology of fuel cells and hydrogen is really one of the key technologies where we can guarantee the self-reliance of Europe towards energy provision. I would like to illustrate this with, if I can get my first slide, please. I have to push here. Yes. No. Can I have one backwards now? Thank you. Sorry, I would like to illustrate this with this overview. Making hydrogen, on the bottom of this chart, there are various ways. Pierre-Etienne already discussed this in the start. Making hydrogen as such is not, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's not complicated. We have the bio situations, we have natural gas, which are at the moment quite convenient ways, from coal. We can include CCS, we can do that. We also have the byproducts, I don't want to call them waste products, but byproducts from industrial processes. And of course, we know that the intermittent renewable energies like wind and solar, we can use to generate hydrogen and use that to store and to buffer. Applications we see in transport sector, we all aware, transport, fuel cells and hydrogen technologies in the car. We have direct and indirect industrial applications. The residential combined heat and power in your house, you can change your boiler with a fuel cell. We have opportunities to re-inject the hydrogen into the natural grid when we use a bigger scale fuel cell. We can also put it back into the natural grid combined with natural gas. I personally believe, I'm convinced, that this technology will contribute to the self-reliance of Europe on energy provision. But not only that, I also believe that this will help us to get out of this currently rather difficult situation. We know the growth is a little struggling. And also, moreover, for the young people, this is a guide on what we can tell them, this is what you have to work on. It's about the future of Europe, it's about the future of the young people. The joint undertaking has the ambition just to illustrate all of this technologies aspect. And I personally believe, I'm convinced that we are on the good way. We have success stories to tell. I'm not going, because this will take far too long, but I'm not going to tell you all the details of our individual projects. But as you're aware, with the chic and high velocity projects, we currently have about 40 buses, probably one of the world's biggest bus fleets ongoing. We have at the high tech and the high to move Scandinavia projects where we demonstrate fuel cell technology and the refilling technology. We have, with the projects Annafield and Softpact and a few others, a lot of micro combined heat and power. We demonstrate to the wide public that this is working. We demonstrate fuel cell hydrogen applications for backup power, UPS, for forklift demonstrations, and for making hydrogen more efficient. All details of these projects you can find on our website. So I believe this is a success story. We are on the good way, but we are not perfectly there yet. This graph, Gantt chart type, is to illustrate that still the peak moment of all our activities, all our projects still has to come. It's a Gantt chart. On the horizontal you see the time, and on the vertical axis you see all our different projects. The blue line indicates roughly where we are. It's pretty obvious to see where we are and that the majority of the projects still has to come. So our project portfolio still is quite a lot of work. From the operational point, so far we have 6 projects closed, 91 projects ongoing or shortly going to start. We have spent from the 450 million euro we kindly get from the European Commission already 305, plus of course the commitment, the in-kind commitment from the research and the industry, which totals roughly about 650 million. From the administrative point of view, to illustrate what's going on inside the joint undertaking, we have improved all our administrative and financial processes to make sure that everything is running smooth and even smoother. All our control systems to assure that the public money we get are well used. Related to the governance, we have regular discussions with our governing board. And yesterday we had a meeting here where we have decided, for your information, the projects where we will start negotiation with from the call 2012. So many people amongst you have probably no project which have been submitted. So early next week, those successful selected projects will get the first information. The scientific committee also yesterday we had a meeting with them, works with us very closely to be as a soundboard where we are from a scientific point of view. There is a lot of technology to be searched. Are they all good directions? There is a lot to do. We have to see where are the priorities. And the state representative group. It's been mentioned already before, the cooperation with all the 27 European member states is of crucial importance to us. We can't do this alone from a European perspective. We all have to work together. And ultimately, and I believe it's worth to mention with the public money, I'm finally accountable for the European Council and Parliament to say all the public money is being used correctly. We have a good relation, and even in that court, the information and the relation is very smooth. Focus points for the joint undertaking. What do I believe we need to do in the future? First of all, and I think most of you again are aware about the various H2 mobility projects, we have to carry on doing this, and we have to carry on linking them. Again, as what I said, people don't stop at the border of a country. The automotive industry will see this as the whole market of Europe. We see the mobility activities in Germany, in UK, Scandinavia, recently announced. You have to make sure that this moves on. Again, as indicated before, we have to demonstrate the potential of large hydrogen production and storage. Use the electricity, the green electricity, to produce hydrogen, act as a buffer. Yes, there may be quite a few things which we at this moment in time haven't thought about. But we have to show that, what I indicated earlier in my presentation, the whole system works. Bigger scale stationary applications, megawatt type. We have a few, but I believe here again, we have to expand on that. And of course, the wide early market benefits, forklift trucks, UPSs, backup power systems, and so on. Currently already quite widely used, but it should really become an alternative option to the conventional diesel generator. Pre-active safety management. We all know that what we are doing here is subject to many people looking at us, because some perception about safety is still a concern. We have to make sure that we are proactive. We have to make sure that we can anticipate any possible difficulty we might encounter. Last but not least, we have fully to exploit joining forces. The name of our organization is the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. We have created a platform where the industry, the research, and the European community working very well together. We have joined them. I personally believe that also it's part of our mission to integrate Europe. In the slide which I show here, we have indicated our demonstration programs. Only demonstration, not the individual research activities. We see that in Europe there are some white spots. And that of course clarifies why we are here today in Paris, in France. I have to skip a couple of slides related to the bus study. So as you know, next to our operational activities, we also have the bus study, very similar to what we have done in the past on the powertrains for cars. So in view of time, I very quickly run over this. The coalition of people, companies working together, 40, have worked on various 8 individual powertrains. Now, if Knut allows me just one more minute to go this a little more complicated slide. We talk about buses, urban transport. On the vertical axis, we see the total cost of ownership on operating buses. On the horizontal, we see the greenhouse gas emissions. This graph, and I agree it's a little complicated, shows different levels of technology readiness. The ones we currently know, diesel, natural gas and trolleys. We also have technologies where we have test fleets, the hybrid powertrains and the fuel cells. We also have where we do some prototype. This graph shows on the bottom right-hand side that the current technologies we have based on fossil fuels have a limited scope in greenhouse gas reduction. On the left-hand side, we see the electric powertrains, where there is a trade-off to be made between cheaper and greener. So that's why it's a triangle. That's why you see the different arrows. We see that the difference we have between electric powertrains and fossil fuel-based powertrains, that margin is rather small. It's not impossible. The conclusion of this slide is that there is a limit with the fossil fuels, and there is a huge option for electric powertrains for public transport. My last slide is about our ambition for the next financial framework, Horizon 2020, as been discussed before. Simplification, appropriate financial tools next to the current grant system we have, strong cooperation with member states, first and foremost, for all you beneficiaries, that you have a smooth transition in 2014. Allow me just one more event to announce. Our program review days in November 28th, 29th, open event. All of you are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bert, for giving us an overview of what the achievements have been within the joint undertaking, and we'll return to some of those questions and maybe some of your remaining facts in the question and answer session. Next, to give us an industry perspective, Pierre-Etienne Franc will look at industry commitments, both with a perspective towards today and 2020. So please, Pierre-Etienne, the floor is yours.
So, as we said in the beginning, we are in the middle of the discussions for the renewal of the joint undertaking. So, the joint undertaking decided to launch a survey to effectively see how much has been spent by the industry as a good signal of commitment on what are the ambitions of the industry in the future in terms of spending, job creation, turnover development, etc. As a sign of the future needs of the sector. So this is the result, this is a rough resume of the result of that survey that has been done with most of you, I guess. At least you've probably all been consulted. This is it. It's been done by McKinsey, and it's been done based on your data. A set of 3 elements have been used. Library and existing research figures on the sector, 2 surveys, one into the current members of the industry grouping, and one to the beneficiaries of the current JU program, and then a couple of qualitative interviews with key players and actors of the sector. So the first set of results is that globally the industry has increased progressively, significantly its commitment in terms of funding for developing the technology, and based on the answers that we've received, both from the new IG members and the beneficiaries, which is a good return overall. I didn't mention that, around 60% positive response from the members of the new IG, and I think 20% from beneficiaries, which is a good score. You see that the private funding is about 500 to 1.4 billion of spending, with then the national and the fuel cell European joint undertaking fundings doing the rest. So if you look at it on another perspective, which is taking another approach based on the declaration of the private members, basically 3 billion has been spent directly by industry, and which is 70% of the total, and around 30% has been spent by using the support of public money, which shows a very strong indication that indeed the private industry was there. I remind you that when we started the joint undertaking, there was a survey at the time saying that if the joint undertaking were to be effectively initiated and launched, the global spending of the industry would move probably from 2.6 to around 3.2 billion, which was the leverage effect of the joint undertaking. When we see those figures, which are the sum of the respondents, I think we made it. And that's a very strong result, which shows the commitment of the industry on the subject. When we look forward, we see that everybody is saying an increase of its turnover, revenues. It means many people see revenues coming, which is good, because in many cases you don't have yet a lot of revenues because you're demonstrating, so we're coming into market deployments. The percentage are computed annual growth, so it means 8-time increase of the revenue level of the industry during the period to come, if we get the necessary support. And if you look, I would say the capital intensity of that growth is getting lower, which is good, because the spending on the capex side are going to increase 2 times, which means that basically, out of a total spending of around 3 billion, we might move to a total spending of around 6 billion, which gives a good indication of the type of leverage we need to have to effectively develop that. That's a message for our friends from the Commission. Then, if you look at the subject in front of employment and job creation, it's always very difficult to make projections because it's very dependent on many things. But basically, the respondents see a 10% growth per annum in the next period, which is an acceleration. On given the current status of employment, I think it's a positive sign, and the number of people per organization is going to increase as well. A little more because we need, and we will see some consolidation in the sector, most probably. In terms of patents, we'll see also that the patent number has increased significantly, and a lot more than many other industries, which is, I think, a good sign of the vitality of the sector on its dynamic, on its still developing technology mood. The key issues that we need to solve, we know them, so I'm not going to pass long on them because I want to save time for the others. But basically, we need to effectively find and meet the commercialization timelines that we have. What I say when people tell me, well, it's always being delayed, I say, well, the delay is reducing. So we're coming closer where the delay is going to be only months, while it was 10 years at the time. It's only 2 years now. It was 2013, it's 2015. So I think it's going to be difficult to delay furthermore. The chicken and egg problem, a lot of initiatives are being built to try to solve that. Nascent but not yet commercial industry that requires support, so I think that's the reason why we are there. Competition, strong competition of investment support from other regions, which are in a way friends, but in another way competitors. Friends because we all try to move the technology, and the progress in Japan, in the US, or in other regions is going to help the sector as a whole, but as far as Europe is concerned, we need to keep being in the race. If we look at the race, Europe is still there in terms of funding, but we're not number one. We have not seen yet the big Asian giants grow, but they will. So Europe cannot afford to reduce its support to that industry. We are still around the same numbers, all of us, when you see the figures of support to the industry, but it's tight, and there is no reason that it should decrease in other areas when we see what Japan is announcing or what the US are going to do, probably with the effect of shale gas. Globally, people see from that joint undertaking that it's been a good experience because it provides stability on long-term vision on sanctuarized fundings. It gives the ability to speak one voice towards the European institutions and the member states. It's a clear central focal point for everyone. So we have a community. I think this is a strong achievement because when you're a fragile sector, you need to be a community. And globally, the real feeling that you've got a support to develop your technology because European support through the joint undertaking is a strong signal. We need to have a better and more visible overarching strategy We really need a first real deployment success. It's not there yet. It's on the making, but we need to make that happen. And we need to increase the execution speed. The new joint undertaking we want to develop is basically a replica of the one, but with more flexible tools to be more efficient, to be more time to market, with still a strong balance between research and demonstration, and probably a reorganizations of the key sectors into two main pillars which are driving the technology: energy on the one side, transport on the other side. And we are in the discussions to develop that. I think I'm finished. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre, at the end, for both staying within the time limit and giving us a rather optimistic view about the ambitions and commitments of the industry sector. Moving on now, I would like to call on Vladimir, the recently appointed Deputy Director of the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, to present to us a perspective of how to tackle energy challenges and innovation looking into the next decade. Vladimir, please.
Thank you, Knut. Good morning to everybody. I'd like, in 10 minutes I would like to touch upon 4 points. Energy policy, energy strategy as 1. Innovation as 2. Something about you, joint undertaking, and something about us, Joint Research Center. So then I hope I will manage it in 10 minutes. Well, I don't need to talk a lot about the first, because a lot has been said. But Pierre-Etienne, you asked this question at the very beginning, asking, are we sure that energy is a priority for us? And I just, let me quote President Barroso. He has his annual speech, State of the Union address, just a few weeks ago. We need to reduce our energy dependence and tap on the renewable energy potential. Promoting competitiveness in the sectors like energy could open up fresh competition, promote innovation, and drive down prices for consumers and businesses. And I think that this is quite clear. We have commitments. We have EU 2020 strategy, so it has been referred to. We have SET plan, we have STT plan, so we have a roadmap until 2050. This has already been mentioned several times this morning. So I think there is quite clear commitment. There is quite clear political commitment, and we don't need to have only those documents. We need to have just a common sense to see and to understand that this is a huge challenge. This is a huge and important political, economical, environmental challenge. But still we see that there are many global challenges which are linked to this. And if this has already been mentioned earlier this morning. So we have climate change on one side, we have energy security on the other side. So then these are all problems. Fossil fuels has been referred to several times as something which reached its peak, and it's not anymore there in such quantities. We might expect something. We might have some elements like now shale gas or whatever. But I think that if we combine this with the climate change, with the climate and environmental challenges, so we clearly see that we need to go renewable. We need to go towards a clean energy. Just let me refer to my yesterday experience. I took part in a seminar on Arctic needs and science. And guess what? What was the 2 main messages? Climate change and vulnerability of Arctic, and energy. So this renewable and also fossil fuels. And you know, we don't know a lot about climate change. And this is, Arctic is proving this is the most sensitive part of the globe. And we see that all models are failing. All predictions are failing. And the change is much faster than predicted by even the most pessimistic scenarios. So we need to invest more more research, we need to invest more, and we need to understand more. So then what we need basically to touch and meet those challenges, respond to those challenges. Basically we need infrastructure and we need innovation. So infrastructure, I think that Commission in MFF and the new budget for next 7 years touched upon this issue quite clearly. We have specific instrument proposed, and that's a Connecting Europe facility with quite a large amount of money. But we have also a huge amount of structural regional funds, which are, and I'll come to this later because I think that's quite relevant also for you. So then this is quite clear. And now innovation, and I'm with my second point, which I wanted to talk about. And I think that we in the Commission went quite a long way, and I think that we understand much better, but there is also a long way to go to understand what innovation is. First of all, innovation is not a linear process. Innovation doesn't mean that if I pour into basic research today, then I have applied research, then I will have innovation and I will have something on the market. So it doesn't work like this. We need to have a little bit more holistic approach. We need to create innovative ecosystems with all players. I think that joint undertaking is a sort of good example of it, but we should go even further. We should not forget about financial institutions to be part of this. We should not forget about regional players to be part of it. We should not forget about education. We should not forget about culture, because as this was mentioned several times, if we are about to have an innovation must be accepted by the public. And here we are with behaviors, here we are with the cultures, here we are with the many things. So then if you understand innovation in this holistic view, so I think that we will be more successful in getting disruptive innovations which we desperately need in many sectors. If you look to the budget, to multi-annual financial frame proposed by the European Commission, you will see that more than 200 billion will go to innovation. So it is a real breakthrough. That's why I'm saying that the Commission went a very long way and understood to a large extent what we need. This is 200 billion in a direct investment into innovation, but the Commission came also with a series of innovative financial instruments, and this is, this part of ecosystem which I refer to. We need to solve the problems of market failures. So, and this is what if we really believe that we need to help and we need to have those innovative financial instruments to help in that respect. So then, third point about FCH, about your joint undertaking. So it's quite clear that if we are about to meet all these goals which I referred to and all previous speakers referred to before, we need to have a clean energy, we need to have a renewable. This is no doubt. If you look at the set plan, there is quite a clear statement about that. If you look to the International Energy Agency, Energy Technology Perspective 2012, you will clearly see what is there, and there is a quite clear dedicated chapter on hydrogen. If I refer to all what has been said, the number of patents, the progress made in the past, so then I see that there is quite a positive and a bright future for this part of the business. Definitely, we need to maintain and strengthen Europe's technology positions, and as we saw in investments, this is probably going to be quite challenging. And now about Joint Research Center. What I should say more, you have a former director of Institute of Energy from Joint Research Center sitting here. You have a current head of unit, Mark Steen, who is dealing with it. You have Deputy Director General speaking now, so then you know that Joint Research Center is a reliable partner for your joint undertaking. What we can do, how we can support in concrete terms. So we can help in assessing robustness and quality of scientific work. You know that as a scientific arm of the Commission, because we are the only scientific service, direct scientific service of the European Commission, we are always going to look holistically and take into account long-term challenges and long-term elements, mostly focus on general public, on the needs of European citizens. So then we are going and we will be looking and helping in pre-normative research, in looking into safety, environment, resource efficiency, emissions, reliability, durability. So then this is one package where JRC can be useful. Then JRC can be an important interlocutor. As a go-between research and policy, we can be quite a good interlocutor in meeting and in connecting different Commission services. And last but not least, what I would like to come back to the structural funds. You know that important part of this more than 200 billions, which will go into innovation, will go through smart specialization. This is the attempt to boost innovations and support for innovations in the region. And surprisingly enough, JRC is providing scientific support to smart innovation. So then, on the top of direct support or interlocation and these interlinks between services, we can help to make this for you with the regions which might be interested in their innovation strategies to have a clean energy, to have this kind of elements. And that's quite important because we are going to be successful in innovation in Europe only if we work together, European level, national level, and regional level, and very local level. And here I'm back with this innovative ecosystem because these are all players which need to be working together. Without that, we will not succeed. So these were four elements which I wanted to mention in the beginning. So thanks a lot for your attention, and I wish you good luck and good continuation building on your impressive achievements. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vladimir, for your emphasis on innovation and also for reinforcing our belief in the continued commitment to environment and energy in several sectors. I was also encouraged by your continued commitment on behalf of the JRC, and I'm sure that will be an important factor in the continuation of this program. Last but not least, since this is a public-private partnership, we also need to have the true public part of the partnership represented. And I'm pleased to introduce Viktor Aldov, the head of unit of energy conversion and distribution systems with DG Research and Innovation. Victor, please.
Thank you. My presentation is a fairly difficult one to deliver, partly because I am totally blinded. I don't see you. So if you think I talk in blindness, you are right. Secondly, I am going to deliver 4 exclamation points, several question marks, and several dots, meaning the work is in progress. We are actually working, but we do not know the result. If I start with 2 exclamation marks out of 4, for the first, hydrogen and fuel cell technologies will be funded in Horizon 2020. That's for sure. The second exclamation mark is also positive. We think that the fuel cell hydrogen joint undertaking works reasonably well, and we see that you are happy and we are happy with you. So the basis is fairly positive. I will start, however, from the very beginning, saying a few words about Horizon 2020, the Commission proposal for Horizon 2020. The first point is the budget, and the Commission proposal is a budget for 80 billion euros. It's an offensive budget in times of crisis. It's a single program comprising 3 current programs working separately. We have the framework program, we have the innovation and competitiveness part of the SIP program, and then we have European Institute of Innovation and Technology. This means that we are coupling research and innovation. We are coming closer to the market. We give the possibility to help to come closer to the market. The structure is fairly simple. There are 3 main priorities. The rules are the same for all the Horizon, all the parts of Horizon, which means that the access to funding is simplified, and we have increased focus on partnering, and fuel cell hydrogen joint undertaking is an example of private-public partnership. The first priority is called Excellent Science. You find European Research Council activities there. You find Future and Emerging Technologies, Marie Curie actions. The second priority is industrial leadership, and you find enabling and industrial technologies, such like information and communication technologies, nanotechnologies, materials. You also find new instrument for access to risk finance. Finally, you find innovation in SMEs, which is fairly important, and this will be the second part of Horizon 2020, where single investigators will be able to get money. And this is a very huge change as compared to the 7th framework program, when you have to have consortia, including SMEs. Here, SMEs will have access to funds directly. The third and biggest priority is priority working with societal challenges facing Europe. We have health, food security, energy, transport, climate action, secure societies. So let's put fuel cell and hydrogen technologies in the center. We work for energy, we work for transport, but you see that quite many other parts of Horizon are also of interest to us, and we have to develop proper interaction. JRC was already mentioned, but European Institute of Innovation and Technology is quite important for accessing the market actions. We have European Research Council, Excellent Science, Future and Emerging Technologies of interest to us, industrial leadership, materials technologies, etc., etc. This is the perspective where fuel cell and hydrogen are in the middle of the world. This is your perspective. This is also my perspective today. If we take Horizon 2020 perspective, it will be slightly different. Hydrogen technologies are mentioned in 2 societal challenges explicitly. One is energy. We have 7 broad lines of action. One of those actions are alternative fuels and mobile energy sources, and one of sub-actions here are hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. We are also mentioned in the transport part. We have 4 broad lines of activities. One of them is resource-efficient transport that respects the environment. Another and sub-action here is developing cleaner propulsion technologies based on electric engines and batteries, fuel cells, or hybrid propulsion. This is another perspective. This is perspective that shows that there is a competition for funding, there is a competition for money. That the decision makers, they have a perspective which is holistic, and we have to be good, even very good, and be successful in the competition for the attention of decision maker. And the best way to be in the focus of decision maker is to deliver results. As I said, partnering in Horizon 2020 will be a way of implementing activities which will increase. We have public-private partnerships, so-called PPPs. Joint technology initiatives is one of the forms. We have another, like contractual PPPs, contractual agreements, where the budget is decided as indicative budget, where the commitments, so to speak, are changeable. A great advantage of joint technology initiatives is that the public commitment is in practice unchangeable. We know it for 7 years. Here, the situation is slightly different, but the role of industry in contractual agreements, contractual PPPs, is very, very strong indeed. So one of the questions that decision makers ask themselves is joint technology initiative the right way, or perhaps contractual PPP is a better and more flexible way. And if you say flexible, it carries kind of positive meaning in it. We have also public-public partnerships, P2Ps. ERA-NETS is one example, but also joint programs between member states. An example of ongoing activity in this typical P2P is activities in metrology. So what are the eligibility criteria, the selection criteria, the competition criteria that decision maker in Commission uses to support joint technology initiatives or perhaps contractual PPPs? The first is added value of action at EU level. The second, scale of impact, shared vision, clearly defined objectives, clear commitment from all sides, in particular from private side, scale of the resources, ability to leverage additional investments, clear definition of roles and performance indicators. I think that the speeches before me already showed that fuel cell and hydrogen joint undertaking fulfills quite many of those criteria in a very good way. There is one criteria that I personally worry about, and this is clear commitment from private side. Not to the sector, not a possibility to leverage additional investments, because here we were presented by Pierre-Etienne with the results of the survey, which are very positive. But we are putting on the table from the public side a large sum of money for the activities of the joint undertaking. We need to know what industry is putting on the table for joint activities. I'm not saying industry is not putting on the table, but I would like to have more visibility for this, and I will have a possibility to measure quite precisely as it's done from the public side. I think this is one weak point, and this is actually the exclamation point number 3, and perhaps the most important one. There is also exclamation point number 4, and this is before this slide. While looking at the list of participants for this General Assembly, I noted 2 people from Slovenia, 1 person from Czech Republic, 1 person from Bulgaria. What this means is that I'm not sure that we are able to say that this is a true all-European effort. Parts of Europe are not present. And I think efforts are needed to put those parts in Europe on the map of fuel cell and hydrogen technologies. This is my 4th exclamation mark. Now, what happens now? What will happen? The first, budget, timing of the decision. Will it be a prolongation or not? We don't know. If the prolongation will be decided, what will be the budget? We don't know. Why we don't know? Concerning the budget, we don't know the budget for Horizon 2020 yet. When we know this budget, and the budget will be comparable or the same as Commission proposal, we are able to estimate a budget for fuel cell hydrogen joint undertaking. But we don't know if this will be the case or not. Then, in order to have a prolongation of the joint undertaking, we need to produce a new regulation. In order to support this regulation, we need to produce impact assessment. We also have to tell the decision makers what will be done with the money proposed. What will be done with the money allocated to a possible future joint undertaking is presented in something we call scientific and technical background document. Impact assessment is a very specific paper. What it tells is what are the different options for the legislator, or what are advantages and disadvantages of different options. To make it short, should we go for contractual PPP? Should we come back to Horizon 2020, collaborative research? Or should we have a new, better joint undertaking? We need all possible arguments in case we want to be reasonably sure that the joint undertaking will continue as a joint undertaking in the future. Then, when Commission takes a decision, it adopts a new regulation, and this regulation is being discussed by both the Council and the Parliament. And when those two agree, we can have a decision for the continuation. So, we are at the beginning of the process of preparing a possible continuation, and we need to have as strong arguments as possible, or even stronger, to be reasonably sure that the joint undertaking will continue. And here, a coupling to my second exclamation point, and this is that so far, I think we have all reason to be happy about the progress achieved so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor, for giving us the perspectives of the European Commission on what is expected to happen in the next months and years. You were at the very end, and even at the beginning with your first exclamation mark, referring to a question which I think a lot of the people in the audience also have, and that is, will there be a continuation of the JTI? And if so, will it happen in time to leave no gap between the current funding and the next? So I would like to start the dialogue now by asking you to elaborate on that. I know that you can't say for sure because there is a decision process ahead of us, but maybe I can rephrase the question by saying, would you prefer there to be a second JTI? And do you have any hopes that it will happen in time to leave no gap between the current program and the next?
I must say that your first formulation of questions was easier to reply to. And why don't I start by replying to those? I don't know, I don't know. The second formulation was more clever and more difficult to reply. Personally, I think there are reasons to hope that the joint undertaking will continue. I think we have a strong case with one or two weak points. Those weak points can be showstoppers. So we must not underestimate them. It's not so that we have 6 or 7 criteria, and if we fulfill 4 excellently, we will go through. We have to fulfill all the different criteria quite well. So we need to work on the weak points, but I think that there is a very good chance that the joint undertaking will continue, provided, once again, that the weak points will be addressed in a proper way. And the second part of your question, I take it very personally. I hope it will continue. I also hope that there will be no reason for the third period of joint undertaking. I think that we will finish the situation that we are talking about market introduction in 5 years from now, in 5 years from now, in 5 years from now. So I do hope that we will not have the third period for joint undertaking, but I hope that we will be in the second period.
Thank you, Victor. I think you went as far as could be expected concerning your role. But a public-private partnership requires more than just support from the European Commission. It also requires commitment from the industrial side. So I'd like to pass the question on to Pierre-Étienne. If you can give an answer on behalf of the entire European industry, do you think they are prepared to back up, even in the current financial climate, a commitment at the scale of the current JTI?
Well, we have a regular discussion with the members of the industry grouping and with the beneficiaries. We just had that survey. You saw the speech of Air Liquide and CEA chairman, which was, I think, rather committed. We see the announcement of the car industry, and I think they can speak themselves, and perhaps Peter or the members from the car companies can have a say. Industry has made proposal to the Commission. Based on the survey, we think it will be not a big issue to effectively commit or share of a multi-annual program, which is public-privately funded, as we did for the first one. I think we will be, of course, capable to do so. The question is how much from the Commission. but perhaps, I don't know, perhaps Peter or somebody from the car industry could stand up and give some comments on that. On the commitments of the car industry for the future. The microphone is circulating, so it should come.
When you're presenting something for the audience, please introduce yourself by name and affiliation. Thank you.
So my name is Peter Vorsle. I'm a representative from the Transportation Committee here in the new IG as well, and from Daimler. And when we look on all our colleagues, they're working very hard in bringing this forward. You see not only Daimler vehicles on the street, there's Hyundai, which going forward very well, Toyota, Honda is still there, GMs are running. So there's a lot of activity, and a lot of investment, because every new generations cost tremendous investments. So you see that we are on the way. So especially we are now looking for the next generation and investing for the next generation. And I think that helps together with the Commission and the governments to bring this technology forward.
Thank you. As I said initially, we will open for questions from the audience too, but as the lights are almost blinding us up here, you have to wave your hand real hard to make yourself visible. Did I see anyone? Okay, in the back, please.
Good morning, Patrick Francois, Survey. So I like to, let's say, comment about what you said about the third GTI, but also to pick the word of Mr. Potier that we need to switch progressively from, let's say, public funding to, let's say, public support in of the industry. Also regarding the survey that has been presented, we see that, well, Europe is probably a second position today. We see some of the initiatives. So how far do we need for the next plan and also for this transition to, let's say, business to focus on what could make Europe different? the differentiation and also to build on our strong points. And probably what I can pick is that there is the possibility to build hydrogen highways. We see between Denmark and Norway, Sweden, there is this strong initiative on buses. So how far can we go to there? And it would be probably nice because we could hopefully expect also the support from the municipalities. So it's about to see how can we focus and differentiate and do the transition to commercialization and get the public support to the industry.
Any response?
Just a very small remark on this. I'd like to reiterate what I said, that you should not underestimate this part of the public support which is going to be part of smart specializations. If you are smart enough and if you have a good contacts with the regional authorities responsible for their innovation strategies, you should try to convince them or to work with them on these innovation strategies to include these things where your poles of competence are strong enough. So, and I think that this can be another public part of the story.
I will add a small remark. I'm not sure that everything needs to be done to have Europe better than the US or Asia or whatsoever. I think one of the beauty of that sector is that it's allowing to further integrate the different member states into a European common view. And I think this is what Europe is lacking today, is more integrated policies in transport and energy. And that sector brings opportunities to better do that. And when we will have done that, then the breadth of the European market will make it a no-brainer to be more competitive than the US and Asia, because then we will see the whole benefit of the market. So I think we should better look how to use that sector for better integration between countries than always try to make the competition or the comparison, even if it's worse, with our friends from America or from Asia.
I would like to revert to the question of public perception. You addressed that in your one of your slides, Pierre-Etienne, but I would like to pose the question to the whole panel. The public perception, the way I see it, is frequently that fuel cells and hydrogen technologies are 5 or 10 years into the future and remain being 5 or 10 years into the future, so that we have it keeps slipping in people's minds. What do we do to counteract that? Well, I assume that you don't accept that as a good description. So what do we do to counteract that? And do you agree that this perception is a real stumbling block for the success of fuel cells and hydrogen, both politically and in the public minds?
So I'll try to answer on that question. First of all, I think there is a correct speed for everything. I think we all understand that too quick is no good and too slow is no good. In the situation with fuel cells and hydrogen, it is correct to state that where we were about 10 years ago, we say it's still 10 years further. We are now here, and it's still a couple of years ahead. So I think we have to make a small differentiation. I said it's not that far anymore, and actually I would almost say it is here. I think what we need to do is just to make the trigger that what we have developed so far by the funding we have used and also by all the activities the research and the private sector did by themselves, it's just to make that small link to trigger the market. Because, and can be complemented by the industry, I think the technology is very close ready to the market, but maybe the market is not yet ready for the technology. Meaning that we need some largely financial supporting mechanisms to just bridge that gap to make sure that, and we're coming back to awareness point, that the people understand this as a valuable alternative to the current incumbent technologies.
The only comment is what I said before, is that the size of the delay is diminishing regularly. So it's a sign that we will finally make it happen. It's not anymore in 10 years, it's in 2-3 years. And they say, well, it's probably not 3 years, but 4 years. So it's coming.
I just like to revert to this, what I said. and before there is this innovation cycle, and the speed of this innovation cycle is determined by the public awareness and the public demand. So this is absolutely clear. So I think that now we need, and that's quite, and I spent last 6 years in doing policies in innovation and creativity. I think that this is something which is extremely important, and if we do not understand this, so then we are shooting into our feet. So then that's why we need to work. We need to go out, reach out, and include education, public awareness, and I think that the new technologies in that respect are making really a breakthrough nowadays. So then we need to seize this opportunity of new information technologies which are able to reach young people across the board. You know, that these are not brochures, these are not some models, but this is something which is going on, and there are very many examples of across media which are having fantastic impact and really triggering huge interest. So then I think that we should be jointly investing also into that part.
Maybe we could pass that question on to the audience as well. And I will in a second, by asking you, what should the joint undertaking do, and what should industry do to convince decision makers and the general public that these are viable options, some today and some in the near future? But there was someone raising his hand, so if you get the microphone, please.
Yeah, Uwe Dietrich, Kutik Institute, working for Energy Board. I have one comment for Victor. And one question. The one was your hope that there will be no GTI 3, as you say. And this is what I would answer with the question, how long do you think Europe will need a nuclear research program any longer? Just in comparison, if you think there is a transition of an energy system to a hydrogen society. That's just my comment. And the other was a question in your statement that a public-private partnership is the right way to move forward with the GTI. What is your view of the research part in a public-private partnership in itself, and especially in the fuel cell and hydrogen? Thank you.
Our joint undertaking is the only one which includes 3 partners, one of them being research grouping. And I think it shows the importance of the research part in our activities. The work programs, the topics, the projects are always agreed between industry grouping, research grouping, and the Commission. So the research part is, as I see it, well taken care of, and the influence of the research part on the activities are very considerable. Your second question is, or your previous question is very important, and I will give you a personal answer here. I do not believe in hydrogen and economy. I believe in hydrogen in the economy. I don't believe that hydrogen will be the only technology used in the energy sector. But I do believe that hydrogen technologies will become a part of the energy and transport system, which will allow Europe to decarbonize to an extent needed to limit the climate change. So to me, hydrogen is one of the portfolio of technologies. And I do hope that the market introduction and a strong market introduction will be happening during the second period of fuel cell and hydrogen. Then, of course, research, technology development will be needed as for any other energy sector, and actually as for any other sector in the society. But I'm not sure that the joint undertaking will be the best way to do this research. But these are guesses, and we'll see what the situation will be the next year when a possible decision will be taken, and then after 7 years of a possible second period of the joint undertaking.
We're close to the end, but I think we have room for one more question. Sorry if I missed someone, but there is one over there on that side, please.
Yes, you asked a question, what GTI should do in the next year. I think you can do very good things to change radically the public perception on the fuel cell technology in mobility, is making a dream come true. And this dream is simple. Making a race car for 24 Hours Le Mans, participate to the race, and someday win the race against fuel car like Audi or Toyota with gasoline. And you may have heard of Green GT, the Swiss project using French technology. Some of you have said, you may have heard, and next year you will have one car, Green GT. Make it funding, special funding for startup, small companies, because I don't think car manufacturer will take risks at 24 Hours Le Mans, but GTI should invest in race car startup and race car project such as 24 Hours Le Mans.
With that exciting proposal, I think we're about ready to close the session. I know that some of you raised your hand and weren't able to get the microphone, but I remind you that there is now a coffee break. And during that, I'm sure that my fellow panel members and others will be available to discuss with you all the issues we have raised. I think on that note, and with an optimism for the next session, we will close session 1.